Please welcome to Monday Night Football Dances. What's up, folks? Hello, a little paper red. Anybody ever gotten a paper cut from the paper wrapper? Daniel from Carlsbad, California. Dennis, with the 46th anniversary of JFK's assassination here, I used to be a big JFK. I read everything you could on that. Do you know the woman who ran Oswald's boarding house called the police and said a police car had been to visit Oswald earlier in the day, and when they asked her what the police car was, she said it had an O and a 1 in it. And they all the cars were listed 201, 202, and they were all accounted for during that time. So they thought she was just a daft old lady. But I believe it was Mark Lane reveals that J.D. Tippett's car, the officer who was shot later in the theater, is 210. So she said it had an O and a 1 in it, and they only went up through 09. Ain't interesting. I don't know. I think they like to drop those little parsley sprigs in, though, to keep your appetite whetted. I was just curious if you had an opinion on the conspiracy versus the lone gunman theory of his murder. I would say it was just Oswald. And I didn't think I'd always think that. But the main thing I think it is that they kept it secret. I believe once you add one other person into the equation, it's not just like twice as likely it'll be found out beforehand. It's 1,000,000 times as likely that it'll be found out beforehand. So that would be my main reason, is that he was able to pull it off and keep it quiet. I'd say it was only in one man's head. Although I would say this, he probably had his best shooting day ever in the history of his life. He just pulled it together. He peaked at the unright moment for the country, but the right moment for an insane assassin, because his track record would not dictate that he was Annie Oakley like that. But I would say he acted alone. I have read about it a great deal and settled on the belief that the mob was behind it. Well, you're talking about two events here. You know, I don't know who was behind it as much. I thought you were talking about the day of, the grassy knoll, the second gunman, the blah, blah, blah. I would have an easier time believing, like you said, I don't know who wrote the check at the end of the day. I believe he acted alone. But if you're talking about the backstory, maybe yours is applicable. Maybe it was them, maybe it was the Cubans, I don't know. Especially Carlos Marcello, Santo Trafficante, one of the great mob names of all time, and Johnny Rosselli. All three hated the Kennedys for their war on organized crime, and two of the three had direct ties to Oswald and Ruby. What are your thoughts? And I think I've expressed them, but certainly I would have an easier time going down the path with you. I'm going to go down these two paths and come to I think Oswald did it alone. Now, going down that path, who financed it, or was it just Oswald? I'd probably lean towards just Oswald being crazy, but I certainly would have an easier time believing that it was communists, or it was the mob, or it was the mob on the communist dime, something like that. Enjoy these samples of the Bathrobe Sessions, a weekly video available only to members of the DMZ, the Dennis Miller Zone, on DennisMillerRadio.com.